Hello everyone, my name's Kaiylin and I'm here with Alia and Burk to present our CSL project for AREC 173. We had the wonderful opportunity of working with the University of Alberta Dining Services for our project.
The University of Alberta Dining Services provides all students and staff, both those living in residence and those that live off campus, with a wide variety of food in an all-you-can-eat buffet style at an inexpensive cost. Dining services ensures that a variety of delicious, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food choices are available throughout the day. Diet choices are also taken into consideration, with foods that support a vegetarian diet and gluten intolerance being available at any time of day. Finally, dining services also provide students with in-house and online education on healthy food choices.
So what is the impact that this organization has on the community it serves? In regard to the Edmonton food system, the U of A Dining Services plays an important role. They not only provide thousands of members of the U of A community with food, they also seek local suppliers for their meals. They provide food options to students, faculty, staff, and visitors at their 2 dining halls on campus. With this, they hold a large responsibility to provide nutritious and quality food. As an organization that sources much of their food from local providers, they support the local agriculture industry or local businesses who source their food from these locations. The U of A Dining Services also takes its responsibility towards sustainability and forward progression of the food industry seriously. With this responsibility in mind, they strive to move onward to a menu that demonstrates inclusivity with regard not only to allergens and intolerances, but to alternate lifestyles, religions, and cultures as well. This organization also promotes environmentally ethical choices by leading through example when providing foodstuffs that are obtained and achieved through more and more sustainable means.
So what was the project? Our group was tasked to provide the University of Alberta Dining Services with digital communication materials to help advance awareness about sustainable food choices, notably plant-based and locally sourced culinary options to students living in residence. We are specifically looking to create infographics, social media posts for Instagram primarily, and trivia questions.
The working process for our project was relatively straightforward. We first met with dining services to determine what food-based issues the communications materials should address. After identifying a number of issues, we ended up selecting 2 particular issues we were most passionate about: local-based foods and plant-based foods. We then exhaustively researched our selected issues, found some interesting and engaging information, and we used that information to design a variety of digestible and educational social media content. Our project was intended to supplement the pre-existing communications materials that dining services had available. In turn, these materials could be used to highlight local and plant-based foods, while simultaneously educating people on these issues. Another main issue was the lack of available information through dining services regarding plant-based diets and facts about locally sourced foods. Though this information was there if individuals were willing to search for it, the ease with which it was accessible was really lacking, and we attempted to address this problem within this project.
So how did our project address this issue? One of the main problems with the movement away from traditional food practices and towards an increasingly humane and sustainable world is the lack of education. Many individuals may want to progress towards a plant-based or locally sourced diet, but are unaware of the benefits that come with it or if the claims surrounding these benefits are trustworthy. Our project made an attempt to bridge this gap by presenting scientifically supported information in an accessible manner through the use of popular social media. We wanted to make clear the advantages that accompany these types of lifestyles in a way that a person perhaps lacking a formal scientific education would be able to understand and relate to. Further, our group wanted to present these realities in a fun and engaging way that made those interacting with the information want to learn about it. We used peer-reviewed and empirically gathered data and findings to educate the public, specifically those participating in dining services, about plant-based and locally sourced dietary choices.
Here are some examples of static Instagram posts that we've created. First of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the video highlighting the benefits that an individual can have when purchasing local foods. Videos have been known to produce twice the engagement on Instagram compared to a static photo post. We can also see 2 static posts highlighting local and plant-based foods. On the next slide, we can see 1 static post as well as 2 story templates. The first story is a game of This or That Food Edition, where participants share their food preferences while engaging with the U Alberta Dining Services Instagram. And the last story is a trivia question about Alberta farming.
One of the issues, as noted earlier, was the difficulty in accessing information about local-based foods and even what foods in dining services were locally produced, I guess. So one of our main ideas was to create a sort of branding around these locally sourced products that could be extended beyond social media and used to easily denote locally sourced products and highlight these choices. As well, and you'll see on this slide as well as the next slide, we designed a wide variety of social media posts that provided information on local-based foods while being very entertaining and easily digestible, but also being highly educational.
So my approach to the kind of posts that I was making was a little bit less on the options that were available and a little bit more on the benefits that were presented with a plant-based diet, as well as the environmental benefits and advantages as well. And also to educate a little bit about the downfalls of animal agriculture. So I chose to make posts that were slideshows and trivia to create a little bit of a higher level of interactivity. A user wouldn't just be able to scroll past them, they would actually have to swipe on those posts to be able to get the information that was either the answer to the trivia question or the lists that were going to be presented through the slideshows. So I chose bright colors, appropriate pictures and things like that in order to force the user to interact with the post in a really engaging and kind of fun way and make it more of a game than just a static image in which there wasn't any sort of engagement.
While this project has asked us to produce content for a CSL partner, we also experienced some newfound knowledge and skills ourselves. Specifically for me, during this project, I was able to extend much of the information I have learned in my business courses, especially my marketing courses, and apply them to a context I had never had the opportunity to work in before, food. I thought much about the design element of the digital communication materials, but also how best to convey information about plant-based and locally sourced ingredients to our target audience. I learned about the importance of inspiring people to make a positive difference rather than attempting to guilt them into a change.
Over the duration of the CSL experience, I first and foremost really furthered my personal knowledge around local-based food, and the issues around those systems. I increased my base knowledge around effective marketing of social media, and on the thread of social media, I also really increased my skill set around producing social media content that was effective, particularly the producing of images. Finally, I really developed my fundamental skills that have an important carryover into future classes such as teamwork and creativity.
I personally learned both technical skills involving making social media posts, all the way from formatting to the addition of images, changing of texts, etc., which could be vital in future endeavors regarding educating the public. As well, during intensive research, I opened up myself to a lot of information regarding environmental and health science surrounding a plant-based diet and the pitfalls and problems that arise with the animal agriculture industry. During this type of technical scientific research that I had to relay appropriately to the public, I had to develop the ability to condense and sometimes simplify certain facts and complex terminology to make it more accessible and digestible to those who may not be familiar with scientific terminology and literature. The bridging of this gap was a very important skill that I developed during the CSL project.
Through the CSL experience, we were able to apply content from the AREC 173 course. In this course, we were taught to be more critical of local foods and not taking them as being better at face value, where people often blindly accept local foods as being more sustainable economically, socially, and environmentally. But this is not always the case, and it is important to look at each food critically. We were taught that food made in and sold in Alberta does not undergo any regulatory checks, versus food that crosses our national or provincial border, which does. With this in mind, we wanted to understand what steps the University of Alberta Dining Services, suppliers, and wholesalers underwent to ensure the food safety of Alberta-made food, to confidently be able to market it as a safe alternative to food from quote-unquote nowhere. For example, Fresh Forward, an Albertan and major local food supplier for Alberta Dining Services, requires that all produce they sell meet the Canada GAP food safety certification, which by no means is a requirement for the food, but is an additional measurement that they take. The Canada Food Gap Safety Certification requires a third-party audit to maintain effective food safety procedures with fresh produce operations and has full Canadian government recognition. It was through the content in AREC 173 that we were able to think critically about the safety requirements of the local food we were promoting to ensure that accurate information was being shared.
As we as a society advance, more novel approaches must be taken towards the food practices that humans engage in. Sustainability, ethical responsibility, and humane treatment of those we share this planet with must be taken into account. We were so happy to assist the University of Alberta Dining Services as they attempt to traverse these challenges and move towards a better world for all.